it's so inspiring and it's so courageous to hear those stories of how even though uh, there was the threat and the danger and the violence that was there as a consequence if you were caught, they still stopped at nothing to learn how to read, write, and how to express their natural right to be able to be educated.
Thank you so much for that, dear Marcos. This is so important. This is important because we are looking at the historical experience the experience that people have gone through. Of course, now we are looking at it as history because it happened in the past. But it is highly important because it affects the kind of life that we live today. This is why I think the society, I mean, the institution that are responsible for how society is run should hold themselves accountable for the malfunctioning of the society because that is why they are there. Nothing here is a mistake. The
Yes.
fact that they refuse to educate the black people is not, and they didn't know that this was going to have consequence. This too is not a mistake. They knew that they were going to have consequence. Because if they didn't know, they didn't need to educate anybody. So education should not be even be taught in the school. If the United States is spending a lot of money to educate its population, the white population, it means because the people know that educating the people is the right thing to do. So if you are segregating some people, not giving them quality education, it means you also know what you are doing because you don't want quality from those kind of people. It means you are responsible for that. It is not by accident. Anyway, another thing I'm going to ask you is what formed your identity? Because now you are an expert in this area in the education in history. You have grown in this area now. You have gotten a lot of experience here. You can speak on the issue. But I'm trying to understand before you get to this level, what formed your identity? What were the things that influenced you for choosing what you become today?
That's a great question. And so, as I uh, grew up and as I went to school and my later years, once I got past elementary and middle school, uh, or you could say, it started in middle school. I was a student, but I was really into sports. I was really into basketball. I played on teams and we traveled. And my interest in playing basketball really carried over into high school and into college. So I put a lot of time, effort, and energy into the game of basketball. There's those in my family who played basketball, and so you could say, in a sense, I was following the tradition, but I really enjoyed the play. But one of the things that I noticed, though, when I was in college, was that there was a certain kind of mindset by a good number of teammates who were on my teams. And anybody who knows anything about me knows that I played on a lot of different basketball teams. I went to different colleges and stuff and uh, played on different teams. And I noticed that many of uh, my black teammates, good guys, but I noticed many of them were on the team trying to make it out of their situation, trying to make it out of a perhaps not so good environment back at home. Perhaps they probably weren't gonna be even going to college if it wasn't for that scholarship or what the game of basketball could offer them. But with many of the other teammates I had who weren't, black, such as myself, I noticed that it was different for them. They weren't on the team necessarily for, trying to make it out of a rough environment. It wasn't so much a state of desperation. It was more leisure. It wasn't as much of a sense of urgency behind it. Maybe they already knew once they graduated college where their life was going to end up or what path they were going to go down. And so I started to think about that, especially as I got towards the end of my college years. And even myself, even having a family that was supportive and caring and available and involved in my life significantly, I thought, for quite a while that the only few options for me was to be a professional basketball player. I wanted to go to the NBA. I rapped. I like to rap. Make music, and my scope and the scope of my teammates was very narrow. And so what inspired me, to your question, what inspired me to begin to transition a little bit more so into the educational arena is because I wanted, as I began to uh, engage with information that went against what I thought, it really impacted me in quite a way. My uncle Harold Bennett, who has passed on, but when he was living at the time, he put me on to different black authors and black writers. I began to in college read the autobiography of Malcolm X, and so I think also being exposed to literature, being exposed to content that really spoke to things I could relate to. And it spoke about African history and culture in uplifting and in positive ways. And when I went to Bowie State University and HBCU in Maryland, a historically Black university, and I was mentored by certain professors and different people, and I would talk to them after class, and I would talk to them during their office hours. We had conversations about things that I hadn't had before. And so all of these things were turning in my mind at once, and I began to put the pieces together. Um, and so there's a gentleman named Elder Kazuma Furlow, and he lives in Kansas City, a place in United States. And he actually gave me an opportunity. I met him online, and he gave me an opportunity to take what I was learning and to be able to share it with a group of people that he was going to be presenting to. And so it really wasn't one thing, but it was a series of a number of different occurrences and a number of different situations that really added up to lead me into this path that I'm on currently. And so I saw that once again, the scope was so narrow, and many of my teammates in beyond only thought that they could be successful dribbling a basketball or catching a football or being an entertainer. And not to knock those things, but there's so many other things that you can do to be successful. But I had to go into history. I had to read up on history more to understand all the range of different things that those of African descent have contributed, those that they have things that they have invented, the things that they have done in a positive way to impact themselves and their community. And so that experience was transformational for me. And so here I am now, just continuing on that path because history really shapes the foundation in which we operate and in which we live on an individual level and on a collective societal level. We are born into situations based on decisions and choices of those who came before us. And so a lot of times I believe in education and in other areas, we put the cart before the horse, so to speak. In other words, we do all this talk about certain things happening right now in the present, but we don't go back and understand how we got here. So that's why the term Sankofa, which means as we go and move forward and embark upon the future, we must never forget where we come from, and we must learn and connect with our history. I believe that that is really foundational and is really applicable to any human being, not just an individual, a Black, of African American, of African descent, all ethnicities, nationalities, walks of life, and backgrounds. I believe that the more you can understand your past, the more clear vision you can have as you propel yourself to the future.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. I really do.